Oh, here it is. It is the big one, the grand final. New Zealand, Australia. What the ruck happened? Well, I'll tell you. Welcome along to the series, the final edition of the Rugby World Cup. What the ruck happened series. Will it be back? That's up to you. Let me know. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed what the ruck happened over the Rugby World Cup, and we will see whether it will be back again in the future. But for now, for today, for this big occasion, Rugby World Cup Grand Final, we're going to have a look, see what we thought about this matchup. Your comments, as always, welcome down below. Let me know what you think. As always, are you happy with the result? Are you annoyed? Australians out there will be absolutely gutted, I am sure. But let's have a look at what happened at this epic, emotional, spine-tingling, goose-bumping, absolutely phenomenal atmosphere, phenomenal place, phenomenal match. Just the occasion alone is enough to get you motivated, to get you into the game, to get you loving life and getting all those amazing feelings, the nerves, the heartbreak and the elation that comes with a Rugby World Cup final. And I can tell you, I've felt them all over the years, and this one was no different. Despite the way the game went, there's always the thought that something amazing could just be around the corner. So let's kick this one off here. The All Blacks, of course, up against Australia. Rugby World Cup Grand Final. And the first thing that really struck me about this game was from the All Blacks and their massive defence. I mean, the first few tackles of the game saw Brendan Foley and Michael Hooper get absolutely destroyed on attack. They were going forward and they got flattened and dumped on the ground. Some big defence from the All Blacks straight off the whistle. It was all New Zealand early on as well. They turned over the ball and they got great territory, great possession, and they were quickly on the scoreboard through the boot of Daniel Carter. But there was some small downside to that, was the injury to Kieran Reid. Now, he did seem to recover this one later on, but he was off for quite some time, seemed to have fell awkwardly from coming down, getting lifted in the air, and just did not land very well. Something looked like ankle, but he was all right. He did return later on in the match. The All Blacks had an early lead, 3-0. New Zealand breathing a sigh of relief. They're on the board, they've got some points, and they were looking phenomenal straight off the whistle. Australia, of course, if you've been watching them throughout the World Cup, have this very, very high-tech system that they have established of kicking off. Now, this interested me very much because the All Blacks seem to be able to nullify this tactic of theirs very, very easily. And whether it was the way the All Blacks dealt with it, but I think more so was the way that Australia did it. I think Foley was kicking to the wrong people and was kicking too deep as well. The Wallabies stood very deep from the halfway line, on about the 10-metre line, started running forward as Foley started to kick, and then it's very difficult to time their run and not be offside. But when they hit that halfway line, they're running at speed, and that gives them a little bit of a boost, but I think they didn't execute it quite so well. Kicking to Whitelock, who was getting lifted. He's one of the safest pair of hands in the air. And then, no jumper is going to get to the heights that Whitelock is getting to lifted. And then they would go even deeper, finding someone like Ma'anonu, who's just going to catch the ball and run straight back at you. He's not going to be under pressure. It's too far away for the Wallabies to really put him under pressure. So I thought that was a good start. New Zealand have dealt to that, and they were dealing very well with the breakdown as well, getting a lot of ruck turnovers very, very early in this match, and that was proving to be not a bit of a surprise, to be completely fair. I think I expected Australia to be very strong in the breakdown. I expect them to retain pretty much all their ball, and the All Blacks to just be starved of possession unless they made a mistake or kicked for touch or upfield for a bit of territory. That didn't happen, and the All Blacks, I think, were very good early on for the way they combated the Australian breakdown. Australia did get back into it though, getting a couple of penalties consecutively. In the end, a scrum going down in the All Black half, getting a penalty from that, and I thought that's the first point right there. The Wallabies looking to gain penalties from their scrum feed, and it was Foley who slotted that one 3-3. The game was all tied up. Then the Wallabies got their first piece of bad news. It was Kane Douglas, who went down with what looked to be an absolutely horrific injury. Now, this was very, very nasty, and I hope it's a speedy recovery as well, because you don't even wish this sort of injury on your worst enemies. And when you go between New Zealand and Australia, we are pretty bitter rivals, pretty bitter enemies as well when it comes to the sports field. But to see something nasty like this to an opposition player, it's not something you wish on anyone. And poor old Douglas, he's been a great player for the Wallabies. He went off and he was not coming back at all. The Wallabies had a clear tactic though, and it was very, very, very obvious to see, and it reminded me something I thought of earlier before this matchup. Is a tactic that they may use springs to mind Waratahs versus Crusaders Super Rugby. It would be almost a year ago now when the Waratahs come against the Crusaders in Australia, and they really, really battled them. They hammered them in every tackle. They were nasty. They were very vicious. They were putting in big, aggressive tackles. They were running all over players. They were bending the rules extremely, extremely far. But it did the trick, because it got right under the skin of the Crusaders, who eventually crumbled under the pressure. They couldn't seem to get away from the pressure getting put on them. And I think that is something that the Australians have kept up their sleeve ever since that match against the Crusaders. And they would have been saving it for this match, especially, and you could see the likes of Kepu especially were looking to get in and get under the skin of the key performers, the likes of Daniel Carter. Now Kepu, 2 high shots in very, very consecutive order, very, very quick order as well against Daniel Carter. Both of them pulled up as well, but I think that was a clear tactic. Upset Carter and you'll upset the All Black rhythm, the All Black momentum, but it didn't seem to work. And I'm going to credit Daniel Carter very early on here. He started off not as influential as he finished, but his ability to get up from these hits and continue to hit the line forward. He didn't stutter at all. He didn't take a backward step. He didn't look to change it. He kept on. And I think if anything, this made the Wallabies think, oh shit, this isn't working. We need plan C, and we need to find it quickly, because the All Blacks are on composure level 99 right now, and this is not working against them. The second big blow come against the Wallabies very quickly after that as well. Matt Giteau off for a concussion test after a bit of a clash with Jerome Kino. No, it was Brodie Retallick it was who he clashed into, one of the All Blacks forwards anyway. A bit of a head knock. He completely lost his marbles, stumbled around the field, went into the wrong defensive line. He was ripped off the field and very quickly told that he would not be returning. Now, this was a massive blow. A man of the experience and talent of Matt Giteau to be off the field for the Wallabies. This was massive for the Australians to lose him. And I have heard on the media recently today is that he actually had a bit of a go at Michael Cheika about being taken off, which was nothing to do with Cheika. It was, of course, the medical referee, as they call them, who said he would not be going back onto the field. So, tempers flaring there. Giteau, very emotional to be missing out on that World Cup chance. He only got a good quarter of a match in under his belt before he made his way off the field. We were just after the half an hour mark, making our way towards the half-time whistle, and a big part of the match straight away that I thought could have had pretty big decisive repercussions from is a huge forward pass from Nehe Milner-Skudder that was completely missed as well from the referee Nigel Owens. It was missed by the touch judges. Ultimately, it led to a penalty that went to Daniel Carter that did put them back in the lead, but I mean, that was a really big forward pass, and I think it did rival up the Wallabies a bit. They knew it was forward. Everyone in the stands knew that it was forward, but the referee, even with the television replays up on the screen, didn't change his decision, didn't see his decision, and as a result, carried on the match. Carter put another 3-pointer over. 6-3 was the score. He added another one just a couple of minutes later as well to make it 9 points to 3. And the performance from Daniel Carter made me think of 2005, the Lions series against the All Blacks, when Daniel Carter was at his pinnacle best. This is when he was easily by a country mile the best fly half in world rugby. His standards had dropped, but I think this match was reminiscent of what he was in those days in 05. He was just that good. New Zealand, through his command, through some good front football from the forwards, were all over this first half, yet they only led by 6 points as we went towards the halftime break. But the big play that the All Blacks are so renowned for doing, Nehe Milner-Skudder, he was the one who gained the benefits of scoring this try, but it was such a team effort, an amazing team effort with fantastic hands going wide. Conrad Smith, McCaw, Milner-Skudder into the corner, a fantastic finish, but it was the build-up play that was equally as good. Aaron Smith involved as well, just fantastic work. Amazing step right on halftime, creating space, creating the gap in the midfield for Conrad Smith to just slide through. I don't know where it went wrong there for the Wallabies, but the pass to Conrad Smith, very flat, like all the plays in the backline have been from Aaron Smith. Flat, he hit it, he had defender left and right and a massive hole in the middle with fullback in front of him. He played the numbers game in behind the defensive line, fed out to Captain McCaw, who knows there is one man outside and they can finish every given opportunity, and that was Nehe Milner-Skudder. Fantastic finish in the right hand corner, and Daniel Carter added insult to injury with a sublime conversion from the sideline. We were going to half-time, 16-3. The All Blacks dominating the match so far, and Australia, you have to say, had very, very few chances in the game. The All Blacks made an interesting change just a couple of minutes in to the second half, and it was Conrad Smith making his way off for Sonny Bill Williams, and boy oh boy did that pay dividends instantly as well. Just 2 minutes into the second half, Sonny Bill Williams drawing in four defenders to one man. That is ridiculous. Then he offloads it to Ma'anonu, who stepped over a man on the ground. That was Hooper. Running in the wrong direction as well was Hooper. And then he stepped again, put the gap, pinned the ears back, and then done what I think was one of the most brilliant pieces of play I've seen in a long time. I'm no fan of Curtly Beale, and to see him absolutely cut to ribbons and ripped to shreds by one step from Ma'anonu off his right foot, planting it, and seeing Beale just go head over heels and all over the place and planting into the ground. That was fantastic. Nonu gunned it for the corner. Drew Mitchell gave chase, but it was to no avail as he could not stop Ma'anonu scoring in his final appearance for the All Blacks. A brilliant try. Sonny Bill Williams, take a bow, my friend. That was brilliant from him. Then the work from Nonu, outstanding. The footwork to destroy Curly Beale, very, very satisfying. It was 21 points to 3. The All Blacks were looking absolutely in dominant form, and they were crushing the Wallabies at the moment. So far in this match, just a few minutes into the second half as well, they were up nicely by a good lead of 18 points. Sekope Kepu, I thought, was a man who deserved a mention here. In a good way and in a bad way. I thought his general play around the field, his ball carrying was very good for the Wallabies, but he seemed to be the nominated man to attack the All Black players. I mean, he was running over players in rucks, he was slapping people in the face in rucks. I mean, there was some filthy stuff going on here from Kepu, not to mention his high shots from earlier in the match. I thought he was playing very well, but I think he was very, very close to treading on a point that could ultimately completely destroy this game for the Wallabies. If someone got a yellow card and a yellow jumper, it could mean even worse things for the match so far. When you're down by 18 points, you don't want to get too testy and really risk the chance of getting a yellow card. The All Blacks, though, they were really demolishing the Wallabies, and when it come to scrum time, they actually bulldozed them off the ball, over the top, turned over the scrum feed, and took possession back their way. Now, that was huge for me. I thought the scrums would be edged by Australia, but the All Blacks showed that it was definitely not that way. They bulldozed over the top, and it's something the Wallabies did not do back the other way. They were better when it's their own scrum feed, But that game, that second half play, was a game-changing moment. The turnover, the game was really starting to open up at this point. The Wallabies were getting desperate, and they would get their opportunity, as well as a yellow card was dished out to Ben Smith. Now, this call has a number of talking points about it. One, there had to be a yellow card because there's been over one per match, and we have never had one in a grand final. We've never had any card of any colour, so it was always going to happen in 2015. The other thing was, it was a nothing tackle. There was nothing in it. There was nothing malicious. His own player took him to the ground. That made him go over vertical, but in the end, he did go over vertical. He was lifted in the air, and that, by the rule book, is still a yellow card. And you cannot complain. I think the All Blacks knew exactly what was going to happen. They tried to test their luck, but when it was dished out, there was always going to be a yellow card to Ben Smith, even if Owens wasn't too keen to give it out. In the end, he went to the bin for 10 minutes and close to their own line. This was a chance that the Wallabies required, but I did have to laugh at the commentary team for this matchup, calling that it should have been a red card. Now, this was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, because not to mention that it was a tip tackle over the vertical, yellow card, simple, problem solved. But the fact of the matter is, it wasn't malicious. He didn't land on his head. There was no real danger of him injuring himself. It was just the fact that it was a dangerous tackle, and there was a possibility it could have been a dangerous tackle the way he could have landed. Now, the call for a red card is ridiculous. I mean, if he got pulled up, upside down, dumped on his head, no regard whatsoever for where he fell and what he landed on, then sure, dish him out a red card. That one would be understandable. But I have to say that the comms just absolutely out of their mind calling that to be a red card. The opportunity arose, though, for the Wallabies with the man in the bin, Ben Smith, and they took it with both hands as well. Just a couple of minutes after he was sent off, it was Pocock on the back of a rolling maul that dots down. Now, the All Blacks, I thought, up to this point, had defended the rolling maul very well, and even still, at this point, the Wallabies took a long time to trudge forward the few metres required to get the ball over the line. But this is what we expected from the Wallabies, and I think they were waiting for the opportunity to put it in. It was a try to Pocock, and that put the game back in the action. 21 points to 10. Surely now it was game on. The 10 minutes with Ben Smith in the bin was starting to wear on down, but I thought Drew Mitchell was really starting to show his worth. Now, I've read things saying that his performance wasn't rated that highly, but I think as far as the Wallabies were concerned, I think Drew Mitchell was one of their standout players, consistently attacking the line, never giving an inch, and he was very hard still to put down regardless. I think Daniel Carter as well, his defensive work more than anything deserves a mention. Every single little half scything break that someone might make, Carter was around the ankles. He put in some massive plays on the fence, and it's easy to miss what a player does on the fence, but Daniel Carter has always been a very, very good defender, and it's something we haven't seen from him too much just with all the injuries, all the time off, but he really showed how capable he is, not only on attack, but on defence in this match. New Zealand were doing well, mainly thanks to the way Carter was playing to hold on from the yellow card that was going on forever and ever. Well and truly over 10 minutes, but the game was still in play. The ball was still in play, and the Wallabies took that last chance to get themselves really back in this game. Tavita Kurandrani, he was the one to take a fortuitous try towards the Wallabies. A chip ahead as well, got the lucky bounce of the ball. It bounced up nicely for Adamashi Cooper, who flicked it in field to Kurandrani, and it was an amazing offload as well. Game on. The game was well and truly on. 21-17 thanks to that try. Foley converted, and there was just 4 points in it. The All Blacks were making changes now. Ben Smith was back on the field. The full complement was back, but you have to say the All Blacks partially to blame on their own ball for that try being scored. They had opportunities to kick for touch, and they could have brought Ben Smith back on, but they let the game play on. They kept the ball in the field of play, which ultimately led to that try. They'll be disappointed that they let the Wallabies back into it, and it could now be a chance to be back in the game. The momentum was well and truly with Australia, but the All Blacks back to 15 men could make things different. I found a funny moment late on in the match after the substitutes were made. I have to laugh once again at the commentary team who said when the changes were made that Beauden Barrett coming on for Milner Skudder was not a threatening change at all, and they almost felt as if the game was less possibility of breaking up with Beauden Barrett there instead of Milner Skudder. Well, what also turned out to be a highly ironic comment later in the game, I thought that was very, very, very wrong. Barrett is an extremely great player. I think his speed alone, as a lot of people who haven't seen Beauden Barrett quickly learn later on in this match how fast he really was. But that was just a horrible, really inaccurate comment to make. Milner Skudder's great, he's been good, but I think Barrett adds something really different. He's an elusive runner, and he's a very hard man to put down with his acceleration is what really caps him off. But the line-out work from the All Blacks was really starting to click in this final 15 minutes. They were looking to secure the ball and line up for that killer chance. The lead was 4, and they went to one man and one man only to come on, be the hero, and get the job done for his team in his first ever Rugby World Cup final. That's right, Daniel Carter lining up possibly one of the greatest drop goals you'll ever see. Coming onto his right foot, stepping off the right, hitting it off the left, 42 metres. What a massive kick from Dan Carter. Sailed it easily between the sticks. Now that is what the All Blacks learn over World Cup and World Cup and World Cup. Drop goals can win matches if you execute them properly. England know that. The All Blacks took a few World Cups to figure that out for themselves. But a massive play, and I think this is the exact moment when New Zealand as a nation breathed a sigh of relief. The comeback from the Wallabies was good, but when the 15th man come back on, it was all back to what it was earlier in the game. The All Blacks dominating most facets of the game, and the points again started to come back their way. Daniel Carter then added a penalty from halfway, right on his length. It was a risky take, but he absolutely thumped it and nailed it 50 metres on the angle. An absolute thunderous kick from Carter. That put the scoreline out to 27-17. The game now surely in the bag. And the Wallabies, well, they threw everything they could at the All Black defence, and they were even in the right area of the field, just flirting with the 22 on the All Blacks side before eventually a mistake was made, and it was the man with something to prove as well. Ben Smith picking up a loose ball after it was knocked on from Drew Mitchell, running down the field, stepping and stepping before putting a kick in, and this is where the ironic statement comes back to haunt the commentators. Beauden Barrett. Now, I mean, he did not have a huge amount of competition when it comes to speed, but he showed his wheels as he burned off the Wallabies defenders led by Pocock, but there was no way anyone was getting anywhere near Beauden Barrett. He towed it ahead again off the shin. It set up perfectly, and the roar went up around the stadium Twickenham, and the All Blacks were in for another try. That would be the decisive moment to decide this match. The third and final try in the 78th minute going to Beauden Barrett. Now this was just a massive relief. I think the drop goal gave people the reassurance that the All Blacks could win this game, but the try really just put the final icing on the cake, and that was party time from there on in for All Blacks fans and New Zealanders all around the world. The All Blacks had done it with just a minute to go. Carter ironically converted this one as well with his right foot, which is just amazing to see the ambidexterity by the iconic fly half who just had the game of his life. Not much more you can say about the game at this point. It was up to 34-17. Wallabies didn't touch the ball again, and eventually Ben Smith kicked the ball into touch, and the game was all over. They could celebrate. The relief was clear to see. The elation very much on the faces of the All Blacks. Devastation on the Wallabies as well. The final score 34-17. New Zealand had gone back to back. The first team to win 3 World Cups. The first team to win 2 consecutive Rugby World Cups. What a match, what an occasion. The All Blacks looked in control for all but about 13 minutes of this game. The Wallabies took the little chance, the little opening they had, but ultimately was never going to be enough 15 on 15. They just didn't have the skill, they didn't have the talent, they didn't have the form as well to put this game beyond doubt. They didn't have it to get it into the match hardly, and the All Blacks are well and truly in control. It's really part of a plan that has been in action for a long, long time for the All Blacks. As I mentioned in my World Cup preview that was done with the Scottish Cannon, things like the minnow matches in the pool stage, stuff like that where the All Blacks really created the pressure on themselves, created situations that they wanted to practice in a match environment as well. I think that has just been the making of the side in the Rugby World Cup. Rather than waiting for the situation to come to them, they come to the situation, they created it, and they conquered it every single time. And when they were put in the situation in a time like this, at a Rugby World Cup final, when the Wallabies, as expected, come fighting back, they knew exactly what to do. So they won it 34-17. The celebrations were underway. But some amazing stats from this game. Richie McCaw, 148 matches, 131 wins. Who would rival that record? I don't think anyone around the sporting globe would at all. But to recap this from the preview video I did where I broke down the sections of the game and who I thought would win it, I can say I was quite far off with my area predictions, but the score, I did predict 37-17, so I'm pretty happy with how that's come out for my side. On to the parts of the game that I thought were the decisive areas for the two teams. The scrums was the first thing. I thought the Wallabies might attack this a bit more and might get a little bit of an edge due to their willingness to attack in an aggressive manner. I thought the All Blacks, for the most part, they were as well content just to feed it straight out the back for Reid and go into the back line. But I think the All Blacks ultimately throughout the match did get the edge on the scrums, especially in the second half where they actually turned the Wallabies over off their own ball and got a scrum turnover was massive. The lineouts, I thought the All Blacks were going to dominate that area, and I did not expect anything less. That's exactly what happened as well. The All Blacks did dominate the lineouts, taking a couple of steals as well, but all in all, they were safe on their own ball, and that is so crucial to win your own ball and disrupt the Wallabies lineout, which, again, ultimately, like I said, disrupted their rolling maul. Apart from that one occasion where the man was in the bin and they didn't really have the setup to combat that rolling maul. But I think all in all, I think New Zealand had the better of the lineouts. Now the biggest part of this match I thought was the back row, the flankers. That was what was ultimately going to decide the game. Now I thought that the All Blacks just had to defend their own ball and make sure Aaron Smith could play. Now I thought Aaron Smith had a pretty average game by his standards, not his best by any stretch of the imagination, but still Aaron Smith playing averagely is better than most scrum halves on the top of their game. But I thought the way New Zealand handled it, the way they nullified the effect of Hooper and Pocock and Fardy for that matter, was a match-winning display. I thought the All Blacks could have let that one get away, and I think Australia attacked it, but they just didn't have the effect that they really wanted to through Hooper and Pocock. They weren't dominating the breakdown. The All Blacks were easily clearing their own ball, getting fast ball as well, playing with the tempo they wanted to. It just didn't have that effect that the Wallabies that you're used to seeing. I think New Zealand can take that point because the way they dealt with it and the way they nullified the so supposedly better back row of Australia. All in all, I think it was pretty even. Neither team really gained dominance of the breakdown, but I think, like I said, the way that New Zealand nullified Hooper and Pocock, Hooper was hardly seen, to be fair. I didn't notice him hardly all in that match over the whole 80 minutes, so that really sums it up for me. Into the halves, I think New Zealand easily take the point here. I think Aaron Smith, like I said before, wasn't his best, didn't have his greatest game, but he's still decent when he's not so good. I think Guinea probably was the better of the two scrum halves, but I think Daniel Carter completely outplayed Bernard Foley. Foley didn't play too badly, made a couple of half-line breaks in the end, but Dan Carter just played the game of his life, and you knew he would too, because this was it. He'd wanted so long to be in a World Cup final. He'd wanted to win it, wanted to play it. This was his chance to shine. Final game in an All Black jumper as well. He was always going to leave it out there 100% for the All Blacks. Into the back line, I think the centre pairing, Ma'anono and Conrad Smith, along with Sonny Bill Williams, they were all over Gito, Kurandrani and Beale when he come on as well. Not much competition there. Kurandrani had some decent chances. Gito didn't do much before he went off, and Beale, well, he did miss a few tackles. He made a couple of decent runs. 50-50 kind of thing. He gave that dodgy pass to Mitchell that ultimately led to the Barrett try as well. So I think I'm going to give that one to the All Blacks as well, who dominated this game. On the wings, though, this is where I will give one to Australia, mainly just to the performance of Drew Mitchell. I think he was easily the best winger in the match. Milner Scudder was all right. Savia really didn't get the chances he wanted. Adam Ashley Cooper, not as influential in the game as he would have liked to be, but he did set up the try to Kurandrani that could have really changed the match around. I think the Wallabies on the wings would get the nod from me just. Into the fullbacks, and it was Folau versus Smith. Ben Smith, of course, got the yellow card. Folau, as much as he tried to impact this game, and he was there every single step of the way, he was forcing his way into the back line, trying to do something special. He was not effective at all, but Ben Smith, with the yellow card, when he was on the field, though, he was a lot better than Folau, no question. But with the yellow card as well, which really let the Aussies back into the game, I'd have to give that one a 50-50. Folau on the field for the full match, didn't let his side down getting a card. Ben Smith, the better player throughout the game. So that's a tough one to pick between those two. All in all, the All Blacks definitely the better side, easily dealing to the Wallabies. It was pretty much mostly in control from get-go. Australia really struggled to get any foothold into this match. My real standouts of this game, Daniel Carter, defensively sublime, but on attack he was equally as good. I think he's just one of those players. He's once-in-a-lifetime players, and when he's at his best, when he's not injured, when he's had some game build-up as well, he's really into his groove like he's got in this World Cup, he is easily the best number 10 in the world. Sonny Bill Williams for his impact. I've said it once, I've said it a million times. He is just that impactful off the bench as well. And finally, for the Wallabies, I'll have to give it to Drew Mitchell. I think he was their best player. The forwards performed well. I thought Scott Seo was quite good as well. In the backs, I think Vardy was probably the most influential player in the back row for the Wallabies. But I was impressed with Drew Mitchell in the second half. I thought he really gave the Wallabies some go forward, using the width on the ball for the team. So we do bid a fond farewell to quite a few players from these two sides. For New Zealand, the likes of Conrad Smith, Ma'anono, Dan Carter in the back line. And the forwards, of course, Makor and Mialamu making way. The last time we'll see them in a black jersey, or will it be? I mean, Makor still hasn't announced whether he's coming or going, but surely it's widely expected this will be his last appearance in a black jersey. Still, the jury is out on that one for the All Black captain. But the NV era, with a lot of players leaving, I think the team is well and truly prepared for their departures, and I'm pretty keen to do a video very soon as well with what is in store for the future of the All Blacks. For those not familiar with the players, or just a way to give my opinions on what I think is going to happen. Are we going to see any departures from the Wallabies as well? I think the likes of Stephen Moore could be saying goodbye as well. There's a few players nearing the end of their career. Adam Ashley Cooper, I think, is on his way as well, leaving overseas for the Wallabies. But of course, they've got that clause that they can come back and play if they're playing more than that 50 caps. So we could see some more returning Wallabies. Are we going to see Matt Giteau and a Wallaby jumper again? Drew Mitchell as well. So many. Will Genia, as he passes date? A lot of names here that could be in their final jumpers for their countries. But all in all, the Wallabies going down to the All Blacks, who get the big win. Back-to-back Rugby World Cups, and it was a fantastic game. As expected, neither team leaving anything out there on the field. So that wraps up what the Ruck happened for the final edition for the Rugby World Cup series of What the Ruck Happened. If you enjoyed this series over the World Cup, leave a thumbs up, let me know you enjoyed it, and let me know if you want to see more of this in the future as well. Thank you everyone again who's tuned in and watched or listened to this series throughout the World Cup. It's been a great joy to make. Watching every single match has left me with very, very little sleeping hours, but it's the dedication you make to the game that you love. That is rugby, and that is the Rugby World Cup. I'll be back again very soon. Like I said, the future of the All Blacks. Pretty keen to do a video on that. We'll see a top 15, starting 15 for the team of the World Cup, for my opinion, not any media scum's opinion. This will be my opinion on the best 15 from the tournament. Obviously, Australia and New Zealand have to be there prominently as the two best teams from the competition, as well as even possibly some more content coming out from the end of the Rugby World Cup. But for now, for the World Cup final, the All Blacks go back to back. Congratulations to New Zealand and commiserations to the Wallabies, though not too many, because how good is it to get one over your rivals? But that is me done and dusted. Thank you for tuning and watching. Hope you have all enjoyed the Rugby World Cup series coming through the channel, and I'll see you again very soon for plenty more rugby. Until then, thank you all for tuning in. Hit that subscribe and like if you're enjoying all this rugby content, and I'll see you next time. Take care.